Do me a favor and like and subscribe. Holy crap, I'm in 1.65 million in debt, and it's because of places like this. This is 23 acres that I bought a couple years ago because it didn't cost me anything to buy. But I convinced the seller to take a loan, or to be the bank actually, and finance this whole freaking property. It goes back either 1,800 or 2,000 feet. I own a 1,000-foot lane, 23 acres, a crap load of trees, 2 streams, and this is where we park cars during our big yearly festival. So we're going to take a walk, and we're going to talk about me being in a bunch of debt during the panic and all the stuff that's going on. And like I've said in my house hack video that I did recently, or I actually just shot it 30 minutes ago, and I don't know when I'm going to post it, but it's one of those things where we're headed into a lot of uncertainty right now. And I've had lots of criticism. Brandon, why are you in debt? Brandon, you're over leveraged. Brandon, you're going to go bankrupt. And the interesting thing, I think, you guys tell me, be sure to like and subscribe and comment below, is whether you think, I guess, I'm going to be a case study in leverage, and whether it'll end up good or bad. I do promise you guys that regardless of what happens, I am going to post it on YouTube. If I go broke, I go broke. If I build a significantly large real estate company, I'll post it on here. So everything that I walk on during this video is going to be mine. I own it. We have $160,000, well, we had $160,000 lien against it. I put $15,000 down for 23 acres with a house. And I will get to the house soon. I am on a trail that is maintained by our local municipality. Over here on my side is one of the 2 streams that I own. I own, I want to say 2 or 3 feet to the middle of this. It is, I don't think it's considered a navigable waterway in the state of Ohio, which is a big freaking deal. There's fish in there. Some people go fishing. On a really interesting note, not too long ago, I took a drone over this property, over my property, which I can do. And I went up the creek line and noticed that an individual has built a small hydroelectric generator on right where my stream ends and the local city starts to own. So he owns a micro hydro generation deal. And he has boats, like little boats made out of plastic 50-gallon drums. He's kind of odded. I think he felt kind of odd seeing the drone fly over what he maybe thinks is his property, but I was on my property, just kind of watching and seeing what was going on, getting some pictures and things like that. But it's a really cool property. I bought it with the intention of Airbnb-ing it, which we'll see. Maybe I can do that, and parking cars, because with the local festival that we have, I had an initial estimate that I can make $25K per year on this property just parking cars. Unfortunately, I was really off. The first year I actually made $7,000. The second, but I had to stay there 24/7, and I just didn't feel like it. I was here working 16 hours a day back in. It wasn't fun parking cars 16 hours a day, but I made $4,000. So I outsourced it this year, and I want to say it brought in gross revenue. It brought in about $6,000 or so. And then my cut was about half of it. So I posted a video about that. But it's a really interesting property. And it's just kind of, to me, an example of what you can do if you can talk to somebody and negotiate a good deal. The person that owned this property had been trying to sell it since 2009. They originally had it they had it separated in 23 1-acre approximate lots. The city okayed them, even though it was in floodplains, because the city wanted more housing stock, and they were willing essentially to look the other way because the area that we're staying in right now is floodplains. We got the creek over here. Although they have done a wonderful job doing flood mitigation projects with it, it has not flooded in a long time. It is still considered a FEMA flood project. So you're not normally supposed to build houses, but the city, municipality, and FEMA work together to approve it for building lots. Now, the interesting thing is, what happened in 2008, 2009? Well, the mortgage crisis hit, and essentially they had like a 1 or 2 year time span to start building houses, and they ran out of it. There were several different companies that came forward to buy the property because there is still 7 or 8 acres that is not in floodplains. Nothing came through because it was in the middle of the crisis, and there's been some complaints with vandalism and problems with the property because we are downtown. We are essentially downtown. And I own the largest plot of land, and I bought it for $15,000 down. So it's just been a really, really kind of weird, awkward project. The house has been rented off and on for $600-ish a month. And then we park cars, and it just about breaks even. I carry a debt load of $160,000, which we pay down. It's a 15-year note. And we continue to make payments on it every month. And we just really barely even break even. I'm sure if I did the critical math, I might lose a couple $100 a month. But to me, it's kind of cool to have 23 acres. But it also comes into play with the $1.65 million in debt that I have. And so like all investors, you either take on debt or you pay cash for everything. And in my eyes, for Brandon, the hillbilly investor, it's been more advantageous to take on what I would consider reasonable debt. At least up until, 3 weeks ago, I could have fire sold all the properties I have, and I could have sold them for about $4 to $4.5 million, giving me a net assets of almost $3 million. That doesn't all go in my pocket because some of my investor partners that I have, they get a little bit of backside equity. So there's a number in there between maybe $2 and $3 million that I was worth up until coronavirus happened. This is really cool. AEP, which is a local electric company, they're supposed to maintain this. They don't. They're supposed to come in here 2 or 3 times a year, bush hog it all out, because there's a utility easement, an electric easement, because it's connecting one side of the city through the middle of my property. I don't know, can you see it? Where these power lines are, connecting one side of the city through the other, and the best thing to do was cut straight through my 23 acres and build power lines. They're supposed to maintain them, but they don't. I've been told that I can send a bill every year to the electric company and charge them for mowing, for bush hogging. And I've talked to some people and said, hey, that's a money-making deal you can do, but I haven't done it. So it's just one of those things. There's all these ways to make money. But leverage is one of those things that could certainly complicate things. I'm a huge fan of Dave Ramsey's content for the most part, but I also don't like a lot of what he says on leverage. And what I mean by that is I think it's good to have some debt, but you definitely don't want to over leverage yourself in such a way that you go bankrupt. Most investors have some number as to where they will go bankrupt. I can lose a good portion of my rent and still be fine. 2/3 of my money, of my loans, are with private investors. They're not with banks. Banks can be audited by FDIC or a bank auditor and told that they have to start accelerating and calling some loans. That's kind of neat. What do you think? But banks can be told that they have to start calling loans in and start foreclosing on people, even when you make payments. Banks kind of have this weird thing where they can have a lot of outs, ways to foreclose on you and take the property that you have a loan against. So that is a asset or a benefit to what Dave Ramsey preaches, but it severely limits scalability of a real estate operation because real estate's expensive. It makes money slowly over time. Which I like. I like the general premise of it because it's a get-rich-slow scheme. And whenever I hear big money quick, as most of you should have, alarm bells and warning bells start going off in my mind. As they should yours. But when I hear something that could make a reasonable return over a long period of time, it's good, and debt and leverage can accelerate your growth. So, it's one of those things where I figured I would walk through this property and let you guys take a look. With coronavirus, I figured I probably should start calling some of my friends that live here downtown and say, hey, if you would like, go walk on my property. Have fun. You'll notice that these are vehicle tracks. And it's because people illegally four-wheel on this property. I get a call every so often saying, those whippersnappers are on your property again. By the time I get here, they're gone. I have talked to my insurance, and essentially, if someone's trespassing, especially with trespass signs, it's an interesting situation where you don't really get in trouble because you're actively trying to fight it. At least that's what I've been told. But nevertheless, it's a interesting property and kind of unique situation. Owns so much land in the middle of town. We're about 15 miles outside Columbus, Ohio. We're downtown, 23 acres, a little over 23 acres. We have turkey and deer and coyotes and foxes and all the normal naturey things that one would expect in nature. And it's been a relatively quiet and uneventful walk. Yet, I think that's north in that general direction. General direction north, there's the hospital for the county. And I'm walking to the one of the boundaries of my land, and there's a subdivision of $300,000 houses. And this is one of the other streams that I have. I don't know if that's a lot line or what. It's a post that someone's dug. But I own this stream and over to the other bank, like an extra 20 some feet. So this is stream number 2 on the property. And we've got our own pool, which makes this an amazing deal, I think, for just $175,000, which was pretty much entirely financed. So here's my pool. It's very expensive construction. Here's the kids waiting pool. I don't know if you can see it. There's the waiting section. There's the deep end. And we got a high dive over yonder. But this property comes with a lot of amenities, but it also puts me in debt. And it's just one of those things where I have tried to balance both leverage and scalability enough so I can buy properties. I really feel like my mission as an investor and a landlord are important just because of the fact that people need houses. And up until in this specific town, once again, this is not the town where my laundromat's located, but in this town, investment, people that want to own more than 1 or 2 rentals, they essentially haven't existed. People didn't want to buy rentals. And then now when the economy really started going, well, oddly enough, we built a company from Italy built a $2.5 billion toilet paper plant, of all things, here in town. And the economy's really been taking off. We're getting more restaurants, or at least it was taking off till 2 weeks ago. And it's just interesting, but people don't want to buy rental properties in a real general sense. The properties I do see moving are nicer, higher end ones. I really am not seeing lower end stuff like I tend to buy. My trailer park, things of that nature. This is another trail that's been cut by 4-wheelers. But you know, it's just an interesting property. I've had a lot of people say they want to take a look at it. We still haven't even got to the house yet. We've been walking around for what, 10, 15 minutes? We're not even close to where my house is. Now, to my detriment, I am not a fast walker in any way, shape, or form. But we've got a little 2-bedroom house. It's really kind of a write-off. It has needed a lot of work, and it has not got the work, which kind of sucks. We haven't seen any deer or people or tents, which is good, I guess. I've had complaints that there was a Facebook post about me saying that I was allowing people to put tents up and I was contributing to a tent city, of which I said I have no clue. And even if I was asked, I do not want a tent city next to $300,000 houses, which is odd. When you own property at this scale, people start to think really weird things of you. I had one group that said I was involved in an international conspiracy controlling the prices of rent and food within the county. That was kind of weird. Now we're off the beaten trail for the most part. And we haven't seen people. We haven't seen really houses. I've just been kind of walking around, chilling out. There's a paint can there. It's a People of the Paint can. I hope they're not coming back here and huffing on my property. That would suck. So, you know, I don't know what you guys think about me being in 1.65 million in debt, especially during the crisis, but in my mind, I've got a lot of leeway. I can forgive rents, which I've done forever, but it also puts a cramp on my cash reserves. My cash reserves aren't near where I would like them to be. And it's one of those things where if I really want to, I can use my YouTube money to bail out my rental property. But to me, that would be kind of dishonest. Maybe you guys would feel different, but you know, I want to talk about and kind of chronicle my struggles, my successes, my failures as a landlord, as a trailer park owner, and a laundromat owner, because ultimately I would like more people to get in business. I would love for there to be more landlords, even in my town, that would essentially compete against me. I think we need more landlords, more business owners, more people just involved in the economy in a general sense, because this stuff, buying this property, really wasn't that hard. Getting the seller to finance 90% of the purchase price was not that hard. I borderline had the property forced on me. They begged me into buying it. Yeah, essentially I told them, if you'll finance 90% of it, I'll take it. And they did, which is crazy. So be sure to like and subscribe. Join our Discord if you like chatting with people about business. I see little like hidey holes for groundhogs. Try to find a way out of all this brush. It's crazy. Like I said, I think I'm gonna call some of my friends or whatever and tell them if they're tired of walking the same stuff, they can come on this property, because it's kind of like I don't want to say famous property, because once again, we're kind of in a small town in central southern Ohio. It's locally famous, or everybody wonders what's back here. And you guys have now seen the extent of what's back here. So I want to go skip to the house that I have up there and show you real quick. So here's the little $15,000 house that sits on the 23 acres in a really great spot. There's really not a whole lot to say other than it's just a small house. I was told at one time this was a pool house for a pool that may have existed in the city. Another individual or several people told me that it was a slaughterhouse back in the 50s. And as it stands now, I cannot find proof in any way, shape, or form that what anybody tells me is right. Kind of one of the ideas that I've had is to transition the property to Airbnb. With the epidemic that's going on right now, it kind of gives me pause as to whether I would want to turn that into Airbnb. I can always remodel the place or do a little bit of upgrades, have it as a traditional rental, probably get about $1,000 a month off of it, just because the house would likely come with the 23 acres. And who wouldn't want to live on 23 acres in the middle of town where you have access to Walmart within 3 minutes? Sprained my ankle. Like and subscribe so my injuries I can recoup some money on the injuries of me falling in groundhog holes. But we'll see what happens with this, whether I turn to Airbnb or I can monetize it. Maybe I'll sell it. I don't know. But we'll see all together what will happen with this property and whether it was a wise choice to take it for $15,000 or not. Park cars and things like that. Thanks for watching.